On tonight's Gwinnett Prep Rally, a big-time upset, a comeback win, one streak is broken, and another hits a historic mark. The defending state champs were on the road at Parkview, and the Panther defense gave the Rams nightmares all night long en route to an improbable upset of the nation's #1 team. Archer had Brookwood on the ropes in Snellville, but the Broncos bounced back in the final minutes of the game to capture an important region victory. In Region 7, North Gwinnett and Norcross squared off in a pivotal matchup that will play a crucial role in the region title race, and it was the Blue Devils landing the first shot. Shiloh has not been 3-0 since 1991, but they would get their chance against visiting Berkmar as we bring you all the action from Friday Night Football on GPR, and it starts right now.
For 20 years, there's only been one home for high school sports, Gwinnett Prep Rally.
Well, it was another great weekend of high school football. Hello and welcome to Gwinnett Prep Rally, now in our 20th season of covering high school athletics in Gwinnett County. And you can catch the show right here on GCPS TV for all the football, basketball, soccer, and baseball action from Class 6A all the way down to Single A. I'm Todd Klein alongside Will Hammock from the Gwinnett Daily Post. And Will, the Grayson Rams' dream of a national title came crashing down against an unlikely opponent, but they still have a shot at the playoffs this season.
Yeah, we talked about before how tough Gwinnett County football is. This was just a reminder. I mean, you have to win your region championship before you start thinking state championship or national championship. And really at this point, all that Grayson has lost is that national title. They can still focus on winning the region and pursuing a second straight state championship.
Well, let's get right to the highlights. And the Parkview Panthers have been an afterthought in recent years, with Brookwood and Grayson both claiming the last two state titles. But the Panthers made quite a statement to the rest of the state this past Friday night when they played host to the #1 team in the nation. GPR's Matt Pelkey has more.
Fear the roar. That was the warning the Parkview Panthers gave visiting and top-ranked Grayson. But on the opening drive of the game, Rams quarterback David McTeer finds Corey Schaefer wide open across the middle. He juggles the ball but hangs on for the 45-yard touchdown. Rams lead at 7-0 early. That's where their fun would end, though. On their very next possession, McTeer can't handle the snap, and Panthers linebacker Justice Rosser pounces on it deep in Grayson territory. It's the first of 4 crucial turnovers for the Rams. Parkview capitalizes on the mistake with a Chris Carson touchdown plunge from 1 yard out. The extra point is blocked, 7-6 Grayson after 1. We go to the second quarter. Parkview quarterback Rob Youngblood rolls left, looks back over the middle, and finds a sliding Bradley Davis just across the goal line for the score. The 2-point conversion is no good, but the Panthers lead at 12-7 after 3. After a Tyler Stevenson field goal pushes the lead to 15-7, Parkview running back Chris Carson takes over. 3 straight carries show off his full array of skills. It takes nearly the entire Ram defense to bring him down as he carries defenders all the way down to the 9-yard line. First and goal. He shows great burst on a run to the outside and almost gets in the corner, but he's marked down at the 1, and they let the big fella finish the job. He caps off the drive with another 1-yard touchdown run, his second of the game. Panthers lead at 22-7. One last chance for the Rams, but Panthers defensive end Sam Willis says, "Not in my house." The Parkview Panthers pull off the biggest upset of the young season, 22-7 over Grayson. Fear the roar indeed.
Well, Will, what a shocking score there around the state. That got everybody's attention. And Parkview obviously has had a lot of signature moments in that program's history, but it's been a few years since they have. But this shows that Cecil Flo and the program still have a little bit left in the tank.
Yeah, definitely. You still have that belief that you're going to win every week with Coach Flo and that staff. I mean, a lot of those guys have won a lot of football games. They've won a lot bigger games than this. They've won state championships, but recently they hadn't had a lot of big victories, and this is something that just really shows they're back, and they're still going to be around and contend for a playoff spot, maybe even a region title.
Well, I think the question everybody asks is, how does this happen? I think you saw in those highlights, you start making mistakes against a good defense, they make you pay for it, and that's what happened to Grayson. But like you said in the opening, the fact is that's just one game, a lot of season left. Do you expect this Grayson team to rebound, and how do you expect them to rebound?
I think they'll rebound fine. I still think you got to look at them as the most talented team in Region 8. They clearly weren't focused in this game, turned the ball over a lot, and you can't do that in Region 8. I mean, you can't overlook anybody, and really just a sloppy effort out of Grayson offensively. The defense, I mean, as good as they are, you can't put that kind of pressure on them. Keep turning the ball over like that. The offense really needs to step it up, and I think they will as the season progresses.
Well, back to the highlights in a game that would have been the lead story any other week, as Archer went on the road looking to get a signature win against perennial powerhouse Brookwood. But the Broncos had other ideas. GPR's Nathan Shutter has more.
Archer on the road at Brookwood for both teams' Region 8 opener. The Tigers would march downfield on the opening drive. Ernest Alexander with the ball, and he breaks free into the secondary, 32 yards on the touchdown run, and Archer takes a 7-0 lead. The Broncos wouldn't take long to answer. On the ensuing drive, Zach Moon pump fakes and launches it downfield. Kyrin Priester makes the catch and gets in for the touchdown. We are all tied at 7. Tigers back on offense. Gabe Tiller looking to pass, but he is picked off by Chandler Price in Archer territory. But Brookwood would have to settle for a field goal and a 10-7 lead. Game knotted at 10 following an Archer field goal. Brookwood on the move, and Zach Moon is going to be picked off by DeAndre Singleton. He gets some nice yardage on the return before finally being brought down on the Brookwood side of the field. Archer will take advantage of the good field position. Ernest Alexander takes it in for his second score of the night. PAT was no good. Tigers lead 16-10 at the half. Fourth quarter, under 3 minutes to play. Brookwood down 19-10, and Jamal Cole runs it in for 6 to trim the deficit to 19-17. Archer would regain possession after a failed onside kick attempt, but the Brookwood defense will step up at the right time. Sean McGee busts through the line and drops the running back for a loss, so Brookwood gets the ball back with under 2 minutes to play. Moon back to pass, and he connects with Kai Priester coming across the middle, and Priester uses his legs to pick up a huge chunk of yardage and an extra 15 yards on a personal foul. With 15 seconds left in the game, Brookwood's going to put it all on the line with a field goal try, and Brandon Morrow bangs it through the uprights to give the Broncos a 20-19 lead. Archer with one last chance. Tiller is going to launch it downfield, but Colin Cotter is there for the interception to clinch the game for Brookwood as they come from behind to knock off Archer by a final of 20-19.
Well, Will, this is one of those comebacks that we've seen in the past from Brookwood. A great comeback, but what was the difference in the second half? Really, it was all Archer in the first half. What did you think the big key for Brookwood was in the second half?
I think there's a lot of improvements on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, we talked through the first part of the season how bad Brookwood's been against the run, and they were bad again in the first half against Archer. Archer really rolled it up on them in the first half, but really different team came out in the second half. Brookwood was great on the defensive side of the ball. Sean McGee had a huge game, 5 tackles for a loss and a sack. Really kind of led the way, and they held Archer to 88 yards in the second half, and that gave them a chance to come back. Well,
it sounds a little cliche, but that's how cliches get to be. They actually proved to be true. In this one, it looked like Archer maybe didn't quite trust themselves. You got to go go through a couple of these heartbreakers until you get used to beating these big programs. Is that what you saw here with Archer? I think so. I think Archer's a very talented team. I was really impressed by what I saw. I think Archer's going to be fine as the season progresses, but really it's just finding that belief to beat one of the big dog teams like that. I mean, obviously they had a breakthrough last season. I think they're going to continue to get those breakthrough victories this season, but this was a tough one to take for sure. More highlights now. The North Gwinnett Bulldogs have dominated Region 7 competition the past few years, and they put their 22-game region winning streak on the line against unbeaten Norcross. GPR's Jeff Batten has all the action from Suwanee.
North Gwinnett trying to keep their unbeaten region streak going. They play host to Norcross. Blue Devils offense looking for an early strike. Joseph Wilbur going to air it out for Trey Smith. Makes the leaping grab inside the 10. That drive's going to stall, so Norcross settles for a field goal attempt. And Joseph Mafood knocks it through from 24 yards out. Norcross up an early 3-0. Blue Devils on the move again. Wilbur swings it out to Clinton Lynch. Somehow stays on his feet, sprints to the end zone for 6. Norcross now up 10-0. North Gwinnett got to answer. Michael Haynes back to pass. A bullet to Almanzo Brown for the Bulldog touchdown, but they're still down 10-7 at halftime. Second half highlights now. Norcross threatening, and the give is to Alvin Kamara. Fights his way in for the touchdown to put the Blue Devils up 17-7. North Gwinnett with the ball deep in Norcross territory. Haynes going over the middle, but his pass is picked off by Kevin Muhan, and he's heading the other way, outrunning everyone to the edge, and he is gone. 86 yards on the return. Blue Devils in complete control, up 24-7. So now North needs to cut into that deficit. So Haynes will call his own number and scramble in from 11 yards out. He cuts the gap to just 10 points, and we've got a whole quarter left to play. So now in the fourth, Joseph Wilbur looking to pass and finds Clinton Lynch for the touchdown, his second of the game, and Norcross gets a huge region win over North Gwinnett, 31-21.
Well, like we said all through this show, there's a lot of football left to be played, but wow, Norcross made quite a statement to open region play.
Yeah, everybody knew this was going to be a great game. It always is a battle between these two in the region, and it definitely was again. Great win by Norcross. They showed a lot on both sides of the ball. I really think the key to that game was the interception by Kevin Muhan, the return for the touchdown. That really turned the tide and gave Norcross a more comfortable lead.
And Norcross looks very impressive, but where does North go from this? Do you think the offense will continue to improve to kind of get up there with the defense?
Yeah, North Gwinnett, as we talked about, is exceptional on defense. They'll always have been, but really the offense I think is going to come around. I really like what Michael Haynes has shown early in the season. He's a very versatile quarterback. Probably runs it as well as anybody they've had at the quarterback position, Mikey Tamburo included. So I think that offense is going to get better and better as the season progresses, and North's going to be a threat in the playoffs.
Well, it's not a huge surprise that Norcross is still unbeaten at this point of the season, but there is another Gwinnett team that was looking to start the season 3-0 for the first time since 1991, and the Shiloh Generals did just that against visiting Berkmar this past Friday night. Nathan Shutter has the call.
Shiloh looking to keep their hot start to the season going as they played host to Berkmar. Patriots offense on the move. Jaquan Morris fires a pass over the middle to Malik Price, who makes the one-handed grab to move the chains. Berkmar would capitalize a couple plays later as Ronnie Perdeau powers his way in for the touchdown. Patriots up 7-0 at the half. Fourth quarter, Shiloh trying to tie things up. Devontae James with the QB sneak, but the ball pops loose and Berkmar recovers for the touchback. Patriots looking for some insurance points. Morris going downfield, but his pass is picked off by Austin Exford. Exford on the return. He's going to cut back to the other side of the field, showing off some slick moves and picking up a couple of key blocks. 40 yards all the way for the touchdown, and we are all tied up at 7-7. The Shiloh defense would force a Berkmar punt deep in their own territory. Austin Exford breaks through to block the punt. He picks up the loose ball and runs it in for 6. The PAT was no good. Generals lead 13-7. More big plays from the Shiloh defense. Morris back to pass, but he gets leveled and fumbles the football. Keith Ficklin jumps on the loose ball, and the Generals with very good field position, and they will take advantage. The handoff goes to Grant Swinton. He gets to the outside and takes it in from 23 yards out as Shiloh rallies for a 19-7 win over Berkmar.
Well, special thanks to the Shiloh Touchdown Club for providing those highlights, Will, and a 3-0 start. It's been a long time since the Generals have started this well. Yeah,
it's great for Coach Hobbs and that staff. I mean, anytime you come in as a new staff, you want to have some success right away and kind of get the kids believing in what you're doing, and that's exactly what they've done. They haven't played the 3 strongest opponents in the world, but really they've taken care of business in all those games. I think they're great on the defensive side of the ball, and really to win a game like this is great because they were behind and kind of had to make some plays to come back and win it.
Like you said, maybe not the toughest schedule to start off. Starts getting a little tougher as they get into region play. They're going to play South Gwinnett this week. I think it's a game that's definitely winnable, but definitely a step up in competition. What do you expect from Shiloh in this game?
It's going to get a lot more difficult, but I think that defense is going to make it possible for the Generals to stay in some of these games. They're going to keep it close with their opponents. So you saw Austin Exford with a huge game this week, but you're going to need plays like that. You're going to need to force turnovers and help get your defense to create points for that offense. They don't have the most potent offense around, but they're going to be very stout on defense. So I think that defense is going to keep them close in a lot of these region games.
A lot more football action to get to as we recap the rest of the 6A teams from around the county. It's brought to you by Breda Pest Management, and we begin with those South Gwinnett Comets.
Yeah, they've always been explosive on offense. They were again in this one, scoring 42 points on Decula. Bernard Morrison with a huge game, creating touchdowns all over the place. But really, I think you look at South Gwinnett, where they made a lot of improvements is on the defensive side of the ball, and that's really going to help them as they go into the region play. It's going to be very tough for anybody to make the playoffs in Region 8, and South's going to rely heavily on that defense to hopefully get it done.
We move over to a big rivalry game, and Peachtree Ridge getting on the board with a win over Duluth.
Yeah, they needed a win bad. I don't think anybody needed a win worse than Peachtree Ridge. I mean, they were really struggling at this point and almost let it slip away. They were up 28-0 on Duluth, and Duluth rallied with 21 there in the fourth quarter. But good game by Bryson Sellers, managing the game, picking up a couple touchdown passes, and huge motivation-wise for the Lions.
This is a team you say to keep your eye on, Will. Mill Creek made it look easy against Mountain View.
Yeah, once again they battled some injuries, had some guys hurt, but really DeVazier Felton stepped up big. 148 yards on only 5 carries, 3 touchdowns, caught a 44-yard touchdown pass. They really took care of business. It's a Mountain View team that upset Mill Creek last year, so you know Mill Creek was going to come into this game motivated, and they definitely showed it to get a lopsided win.
And you talk about taking care of business. Collins Hill did just that against Habersham.
Yeah, they talked about maybe playing a complete game. They hadn't done it their first couple of games. They've been kind of up and down, finishing slow, and then slow. And it really took care of business all throughout in this one. Brett Sheehan with a huge game, 22 out of 25 passing. 3 touchdowns, also had a 40-yard touchdown run. So just a great effort by the Eagles on that long road trip to Habersham.
And staying there with the Eagles, Will, as we kind of get into region play and it starts sorting itself out, how do you feel Collins Hill stacks up in their region?
I think there's a lot of potential over there at Collins Hill. They're a lot better defensively than people might think, and offensively they put up big numbers the whole time Coach Reach has been over there. I think that's going to continue. They've got a great college caliber quarterback in Brett Sheehan, and an offense that's going to hit you in a lot of different ways. So I like Collins Hill. I think they're going to push and make the playoffs out of that region.
Another team I'm really curious about is the one that led off this segment, South Gwinnett. You talked about that offense. It looked pretty good against Tequila, putting up 42 points. I know Shiloh right now is getting a lot of buzz because they haven't been as good in past years, but this South Gwinnett team could be impressive by the end of the season as well.
It is, and I think going into this region game with Shiloh, it's almost a must-win situation for South, given how many teams are going to be pushing for playoff berths in that region. So the Comets can't have a slip-up. They need to take care of business here in this opener if they want to be a playoff team, and it's going to be tough against the Shiloh team that's very good on defense.
Time now for Will's World. We put 60 seconds on the clock, and we get in the mind of our very own Will Hammock. It's brought to you by Nexstar Communications.
And speaking of new coaches with sudden success, much like Coach Hobbs, it's been a great start for Tim Hardy and the GAC coaches. Lost a tough one in overtime this past week, but they won the first few games there, and really off to a great start. He has those kids believing in what they're able to do, and I think they're going to be a force in the region they play in, 6AA, and then once they get in the playoffs, I think they have the mindset and the belief that they're going to play with anybody, and that guy right there, Kyle Scales, is a big reason why. Shifting to 6A football, we got the state rankings came out this week, and surprisingly, Grayson fell from #1 national ranking, #1 state ranking, to out of the top 10 in the state poll, which seems kind of crazy. I don't know how you can have that many teams in the state of Georgia that are better than Grayson. Really, West Forsyth to be ranked at #5 seems a little crazy to not have Grayson in the poll. The last thing we're going to talk about is Mill Creek. I mean, they're going to be a factor in this region championship race. I think they're going to battle tooth and nail with the North Gwinnett's, the Norcrosses. I think this is a team that's talented enough to make an impact, not only in to make the playoffs this season, but also to maybe win a region championship. I like what they've done so far. They're very physical on the line, and that's always an important part of Gwinnett County football. So I think they've got a chance to do some historic things this season.
And going back to those rankings, I think we can all agree rankings can be a little silly, especially it's not like college where somebody else is going to vote on who gets to go to the playoffs. When it's all said and done, how do you see Grayson shaping up, and is there any reason to think that they're not still a big-time state title contender?
I think if you have that defense, you have to consider them a state championship contender. I mean, as long as the offense just controls the clock, doesn't make mistakes. I mean, when they're going to lose the ball game is what they did against Parkview this past week, turn it over. I mean, Grayson's offense is not that flashy this season, and it really doesn't have to be. Just control the ball, don't make mistakes, and that defense is going to take care of you.
Time now to focus on standout performances, so let's move on to this week's Building Blocks presented by Britt's Home Furnishing. And first up is Kai Priester from Brookwood.
Yeah, really had his biggest game as a Bronco. He got a guy that moved in from Florida, had 7 catches for 123 yards and a touchdown. Really, it was huge on that last drive with a couple catches to set up the game-winning field goal. Also recovered an impressive onside kick in this game. It got called back, but really sprinted down the field and out-leapt the Grayson player for the ball. It was pretty impressive, but just a guy that's really made an impact on that offense.
We move over to the running back from Archer, Ernest Alexander, Will, and I think by the end of the season, Region 8 defenses are going to get tired of seeing this guy.
Yeah, he's so incredibly strong. He's a guy that's low to the ground, a lot like Michael Turner with the Falcons. He's tough to tackle. He's going to power through guys. He's just a guy that's very impressive. Got 3 100-yard rushing games already this season, putting up huge numbers for the Tigers, and I look for that to continue. They're big and physical up front, and he's a guy that's going to pound you behind that line.
And talk about another guy that's a physical runner is Chris Carson. What a nice game for him against that very good Grayson defense.
Yeah, running tough. I mean, 25 carries to get your 61 yards. You can see how good that defense is, but very physical runner, Chris Carson. He might not look at not the biggest guy in the world, kind of thin, but he's a guy that really runs hard, runs at you, and he's a very explosive player. You're going to see a lot of big 200-yard games out of him this season. Just was tough against that defense.
Well, Will, those were all great performances. Who else played well last week that we should mention?
Well, staying on that Parkview-Grayson game, I think Rob Youngblood, the quarterback, had a very gutsy effort in this game. He had some big plays and also played hurt there at the end to really step up. And Justice Rosser from Parkview was so big in the turnover battle, forcing fumbles, recovering fumbles. Just a great game out of those 2 guys.
Time now for Will to channel his inner Swami as we look ahead to some key matchups on the gridiron this week. It's brought to you by Tommy Lee Carpets. We call it Beat the Post. We'll give you a chance to do exactly that. And we start off with that Shiloh-South Gwinnett game that we talked about earlier.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting game. Probably more hype for this matchup than there has been in years. But I really like what South Gwinnett's done in the offseason. They've made a lot of improvements, got their guys healthy. I just don't think Shiloh has the offense at this point to pull off the upset.
Well, 2 teams that were on opposite ends of the spectrum this past week. Parkview off that big upset. They go to play Archer, which saw it fall through their hands.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how these teams bounce back, how Parkview come down from the high and Archer bounce back from the low. I just really think Archer is bigger, more physical. I think they're going to pull out a close win in this one.
Another rivalry game, Duluth. Do they have enough to go against Norcross?
I think this is going to be a tough one for Duluth. They've kind of struggled with some tough losses early in the season. Norcross has really got it rolling with a lot of talent, so I like the Blue Devils.
And then we go with Decula at Grayson. It's probably not a good time to be Decula this week.
No, Grayson's definitely going to be plenty angry, really wanting to win this ball game. And Decula, it's a team that's really struggling at the moment. So Decula's going to have a tough task to win this one. I think Grayson wins it in lopsided fashion.
And then finally, you talked about this Mill Creek team being an up-and-comer. They play at Peachtree Ridge. Does Peachtree Ridge have enough to pull up the upset?
Yeah, it's one of the more interesting games of the week. We'll see how far Peachtree Ridge has come, finally getting a win. I think Mill Creek's really got it clicking right now. I think they're going to run the ball pretty well in this game and probably beat the Lions.
All right, that's going to do it for this week's GPR. Be sure to join us next week for more highlights and features with a full slate of Friday Night Football. You can see Gwinnett Prep Rally every Tuesday through Friday right here on GCPS TV, and you can go to GwinnettPrepRally.com for all the scheduling details. For Will Hammock and all of us here at GPR, I'm Todd Klein. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you under the lights.